Just want to give a quick intro on how to extend Teams apps to Microsoft 365 across apps. So to reuse them in Outlook and Office. I'm reusing a sample which the diehard audience of this kind of calls might remember from a different technical scenario, but come to that in a minute. First, I would like to quickly introduce myself for those who still don't know me. My name is Markus Möller. I'm working as a Microsoft 365 developer expert for Avanade in Germany. I'm a Microsoft MVP since a bit more than 12 months. If you want to get in contact with me, try to reach out. I'm still on Twitter, or you can use my blog and contact me there over my articles and comment if you like. As you might know from my different presentations, I already like to start directly with the demo. So what I would like to show today is how to save full mails. So not only the attachments or so, but the full mails to either Teams or OneDrive, and even mark them as saved so that you do not do it twice or different times. This scenario is taken from an older idea. I think it was 2.5 years, 3 years back, when it was an option to use Outlook add-ins in SharePoint Framework, which was a bit of dead birth, I think. But I try to reuse this now in this sample. And why I try to use this, I will come to later, because I see something at the horizon there as well. Okay, let's start with the first demo. What we need is a Teams personal app. We have several ones here, and what we are talking about is the mail storage app. The mail storage app will show us the most recent, very simple, the most recent mails we have in Outlook. And we can pick one, and we can press save. And then what we open up is our current available Microsoft Teams. We can go to one, browse through that, go into the general folder, go into a subfolder we prepared here, and save the mail. Yeah, this is still demo here. So this was, I think I have to get rid of it, but nevertheless, I can show you directly that I'm getting the ID of the given mail. Let's check the result. If you remember, we were in the, I think it was the retail team. We were in the general tab. We were in the files folder in the PnP demo call. And there we have a mail from a few seconds ago. We can open that up. And there is our mail. And it's stored or archived there as well. Yeah. So this is a simple Microsoft Teams application, but it is not really related to Teams, yeah, because mail is involved. You must not store it in Teams. You can also store it in OneDrive or SharePoint or whatever you can think about. So let's see how we can act with the exact same app from a different perspective. Let's jump to Outlook, therefore. In Outlook, we also have an app button. We have the mail storage app here. It's already installed. It's already there. And what we can do now is what you can see here at the right side, yeah, is a little storage icon. So I already recognize, hey, this mail is already stored somewhere. When I try it again, I get more deeper information about that. I already stored it somewhere in my system. Now I will cancel it here because I only want to do it twice. And therefore, we can directly jump to the third option we have to use or to reuse the same app once again. We can go to office.com, which will become Microsoft 365 apps in the beginning. And here we have also some apps. And here we have some standard apps, but also our mail storage app. Same rendering once again. Now we can start with a big mail, for instance, and save that one. And what's different here now is now I'm detecting that I'm not in Teams anymore. Now I'm in Office. In Outlook, it was the same. This is my scenario that I'm using not Teams as storage location anymore if I'm outside Teams. So here now I'm using OneDrive. You can detect this from my very fantastic folder names. Go to the PnP call demo prepared here for us. save the mail once again. Shouldn't take much time. Let's check it and go to our OneDrive. And there we are. And here, this takes a bit of time of loading, but this is on purpose. You might have seen the file size in the OneDrive folder. There we have a very big mail. This is also for demo purposes, because it's essential when you store files, you have to distinguish between small files smaller than 4 megabytes and big files bigger than 4 megabytes. And here, this was I think was my biggest shot last year out in the wildlife. Nevertheless, that was my demo. Let's talk a bit about the backgrounds. What do we need to get this up and running? It's quite simple. We need a Teams static personal tab application. You have seen that. It's essential that you use the Teams manifest to wrap around the app with version 1.13 or above. We also need the Teams JS SDK 2.0 or above. For instance, we can also use to detect where are we. Yeah, but we'll see this in a couple of minutes. And to have that all up and running, for instance, when I'm working with the Yeoman generator for Teams, here you need the version 4, at least, because this supports all the things above. So the manifest 1.13, I think, was even a version earlier, but the Teams JS SDK 2.0 is only available since version 4. The scenario was quite simple, but there's much more, and you also are not really bound to the Yeoman generator for Teams or Teams native apps, how I call it in general. So here is only a very small scenario that I'm showing. I'm showing a personal app realized with Teams app or in Yeoman generator, or could also have used the Teams toolkit also. Yeah? And this is what I'm reusing inside Teams, Outlook, or Office. The same would be achievable with SharePoint Framework, for instance. Yeah, there's only one downside. I don't like too much SharePoint Framework here in this case, because I might deal with really big file sizes, and then I would have a client-server ping-pong with SharePoint Framework, while in a Teams application, I have my backend, which does all things for me. What I did not show here, but what is also available, are so-called search-based messaging extensions. They can be realized in Teams since, I don't know, a couple of years, and since recently also in Outlook. So we can pick cards from your search results and put them directly into an Outlook Compose things. I'm currently writing or working on a sample using that. You can also realize with SharePoint Framework and Teams in parallel. In Teams is the action-based variant of messaging extensions. This is a bit more richful. And I'm really, really praying for this to come to Outlook as well. I already covered what do we need for the manifest. Yeah, quite easy. We need the version 1.13, and that's all. Static tab and the scope personal. Nothing else is needed. The second thing is what we can do, and what I did, you remember that I was storing either to Teams or to OneDrive, is you can detect in your app which kind of host, which kind of Microsoft 365 product I'm running in. Yeah? So I might either run in Teams, or what I'm doing here is if I'm not in Teams, in Outlook or in a default way, then I use a different component. Then I use here my OneDrive component, while I was using, here's my OneDrive component. In Teams, I would use the Teams component. Yeah, and just to add this, it's not in the code side here, but the third option we have, if you want to detect it specifically, is also Office as the third pillar in the scenario. What I was also using the sample for is to illustrate how to use single sign-on, because of course, doing some graph calls in the backend, they will need single sign-on for this. And why I'm doing this in this way, I'm showing here. So I try to do as much as I can on the server side only. So the only thing what I need to do really on client side is get my initial bootstrap or ID token, which represents the user. It's already authenticated inside Teams or Office or Outlook. And then I directly call my backend operation. And the backend operation does all the additional things for me. I have to exchange the token to an access token. Therefore, I might need a secret for my app registration, all the things only available on backend side. I do not return the token to client side. I directly call my third-party API, in this case, my graph things. And what I finally only do and what only reaches the client once again is my result, nothing else. So question, would I do that on client side as well? No, I wouldn't do it if I can prevent. And I've seen samples also on Microsoft side, unfortunately, who are doing that, who are sharing the access token on client side. And so I do not appreciate that. I mentioned this in my demos by showing you different, my small digest mail versus the big picture mail. So we have to distinct, or we can distinct in the code if we are using, if we have a bigger MIME content length, so bigger than 4 megabyte, then we need a resumable upload session. If not, we can simply upload it. Of course, you can do the resumable upload session, which I'm showing on the bottom here. So I first create a session, and then I can push my slices. Yeah, the first 320 kilobytes and so on and so forth. I could do that as well for smaller mails. Then I would save a lot of code. Yeah, but I wouldn't. I would try to simple wherever I can. So this is why I'm distincting between smaller and bigger file sizes here. And the last thing is, you might have seen that I'm detecting that I already stored a mail, yeah, so that I do not do it twice, or that I can prevent this potentially. How do I achieve that? Yeah, of course, I could have a database or SharePoint list in the background and write down every mail I already stored. Yeah, but it would make sense. The easiest thing to achieve this are Microsoft Graph open extensions. With Microsoft Graph open extensions, I can simply adjust any kind of simple metadata of my choice to Microsoft Graph objects, such as my mails. So I could even write a shoe size of the author of a mail to a mail if I would want to. That's quite easy. Simply, yeah, you have to have a name, a unique name, and write this as an extension, a property. There's an alternative. This is the schema extensions. This is a bit more robust. And you can also query for mails then. In this case, you cannot. So I cannot retrieve all my mails of my inbox that are already saved. That's not possible. I can only get an additional information. If I have a mail, I can ask, hey, do I also have an extension or not? Yeah. But this is how I was getting this up and running, that I was already remembering, hey, this mail got stored somewhere else already. That's all from my side. As always, some resources about the shown content. So I have a blog post about that. The code is already shared as a PnP sample. There's some Microsoft documentation around this M365 apps. And I also wrote an article on the PnP blog about the different scenarios. You remember the table, for instance, I was showing. This is what a bit more illustrating. And just as an outlook for the early 2023, I will come up with another sample who will show all the missing things. We show not only how to realize it in Teams, but also the same in SharePoint Framework. Yeah, we will also realize such the search-based messaging connector. And this is what I'm currently working on. And stay tuned for this, and see you in one of the next calls, maybe for that to demo.
Awesome, Markus. Really good job. I mean, Always you do amazing work, but really love how you showed the scenarios and you well documented and identified the what and the why and the where you're doing it, the code. Really great job. Super stuff. Can't wait to see your next sample as well. So thank you for sharing that and putting it into the repository. Everybody, you can get that. The links are in the chat as well. So great job, Markus. Thank you. You're rocking it.
Thanks for listening, all. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Thank you.